Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about homeschool must-have tools. So I would love to hear from you guys. Go ahead and share in the comments if you're joining us live or if you're joining us on the replay.
I'm really
So,
excited to be talking about this too.
yeah, we're both homeschool graduates. We're both part of the Homeschool Quest, and we would love to share with you guys some of the things that we really enjoyed having and some of the things we really wished we had.
Yeah.
Okay, so the very first thing I don't think is any surprise to anyone, but a really good printer is essential. It allows you to be
Yeah.
able to print so many worksheets. Either pick an EcoTank printer, seems to be the most popular one for homeschooling right now, or a laser printer. We had a laser printer. It was awesome. It did a lot. We could just do tons and tons of worksheets on that. And I would also recommend lots of paper. So buy it in bulk
Yeah.
because you're always going to want to have paper on hand.
Sometimes they'll have sales on this at like office supply stores, and so it's a great time to stock up because sometimes they'll have different sales. If you see a good deal on paper, stock up because you're going to be using it a lot.
Yeah, I 100% agree. The other thing that I wish that we had was a laminator.
Ooh, I want
And
one of those.
right, I want one right now. So the Scotch laminator seems to be the best one for the price. It's very affordable on Amazon. And one of the things that I really like about it is being able to laminate worksheets that you can do with multiple different kids, being able to laminate things like maps, being able to make your own like posters that you can put on the wall that you can use dry erase markers on, I think is a huge benefit. You can even take pages out of workbooks and laminate them. So
It's true.
this gives you the ability to be able to actually save money in the long run because you're able to reuse lots of this material. So it makes the most out of your printing and paper that you're using.
Yeah, and I think something about it is that it makes us you only have to print it once, like Billy was mentioning. So if you have kids of multiple ages, and eventually you're probably going to want to reuse like maybe that worksheet, or maybe you have a curriculum that you really like and you plan to use again. Having a laminator will actually save you money because I mean it doesn't seem like a whole lot at first, like with the paper, but like it adds up. Having to print it so many times, even if it's just that your kid like maybe it's a fine motor skill printable, and your kid likes doing it all the time. This is also really good for activity books. Like you'll have an activity pack you'll see where it'll do a bunch of different resources, and then the laminator really is helpful for that because it makes it so they're actually reusable, which is really good for like morning baskets and whatnot.
I agree on that for sure. One of the items that I wish that we had was a spiral book binder so that you can actually print your own curriculum and then make it into workbooks. I honestly think this is such a cool item and would have it for just for fun.
Yeah.
What we did have though, and this is something that is just as easy to use, is a 3-hole punch and binders. So you can put together, it is cheaper than getting a spiral book binder, but it can take up some more room. The binders are a little bit more bulky. Benefit of the binders over the spiral bound books is you can change them out. So you can print a certain amount of worksheets for your kids. Each kid can have one. And so there is some benefits. We had binders where we would put different assignments and worksheets that we needed to do. And those worked really well for us.
It works really well for keeping your kids' art too. So if your kids are like drawing and whatnot, it's really good. I remember my parents using that. I remember when I was a kid, I thought it was just the coolest thing that there was a binder with my art in it. Made me feel like a legit like artist. So that's definitely something that kids like.
So I would say I've seen so many people say that a manual pencil sharpener or an electric pencil sharpener is kind of an essential. We had, each one of us had our own manual pencil sharpener as a part of our school supplies, but I remember when we finally got an electric one and it was a game changer. So if you can afford to get an electric pencil sharpener, you are going to use it all the time.
Yeah, it'll make it a lot easier because you just put it through there, and then especially if you're doing a lot of offline curriculum, like you're doing lots of various printables and whatnot, or even workbooks, or like the ones you can get at Costco, they're like really thick, they're like good for their kids all the time. Those are really good for like if you're gonna be reusing that kind of stuff.
Some of the things that I really enjoyed was our educational posters and our laminated wall maps. Those are a lot of fun. And being able to have things like calendar or multiplication tables or things like that that they can kind of be taking in. They don't even have to be focusing on it. But if you can have something with all the different ABCs, these educational posters are going to help you to be able to not only make your space feel more like a specific learning room, and this can be your living room, um, or it can be a specific room. But having educational posters, I personally really enjoyed having the wall maps so that we could kind of place the different historical figures we were learning about, and it just helped to learn geography as we were learning other subjects.
Also, there's a lot of these I'll see that like ones you can get online. I feature them in my resource guides all the time, and there is lots of educational posters that you can actually print. That are even free or affordable, just depending on like what design you want to get. But they are a pretty affordable way to add some of that kind of decor, kind of like the education and the decor, which can help them like keep it on top of mind. Some of these lessons, like maybe you're learning about a certain country, and then so you can actually show them the country. And so that's I remember when I did that, so when we would do things like that, I really found that fascinating. Kind of makes it more tangible.
Mhm. So one of the hacks that I've seen a lot of people do online is they get magazine holders, especially with multiple slots, to be able to put the different subjects and workbooks together. So this is what we're going to do on today, tomorrow, the next day, and they're able to actually print their worksheets ahead of time. And I think that's brilliant. I would have loved to have done that. Um, One of the things we did do is we had lots of whiteboards. And so it was a lot of fun to be able to actually teach classes with the whiteboard. So what we did is we would all take turns teaching a class, and then we would use the whiteboard to illustrate our points and write down notes and things like that. And that's not necessarily a must have, but it is really nice when you're teaching a new concept or you're practicing handwriting. It You can use a whiteboard or a chalkboard. Um, I like the whiteboard because I feel like it's less messy.
I also just want to mention that actually even stuff like whiteboards or chalkboards actually can be pretty affordable. Like there is lots of options where you can get it for a really good affordable price. So for example, like I've seen them at the Dollar Tree, I've seen them at like Family Dollar, Dollar General, depending on what's around to you. And there's various stores that will have pretty good prices on that. So it can be something that is quite affordable, especially if you're doing it for like little kids too, because like you don't need a huge one necessarily. So yeah, it is a really fun thing. I do fondly remember that. That was really fun when we used to do that growing up.
So another thing that I want to mention is having a paper cutter or really good scissors that actually can cut things.
Yeah.
I feel like that's pretty much an essential when you are making timelines or paper dolls or any of those fun additional items for that you need to cut out. Having a pair of good scissors that nobody else gets to use on anything else except for homeschooling can make a big difference between something being a really fun experience and something just being really frustrating. We had paper cutters, so we were able to make our own flashcards a lot of times. And so that was really beneficial. That one's kind of optional, but I really enjoyed being able to make our own flashcards or games, card games,
Yeah, I was just
just
gonna
using
mention that.
paper.
I was just gonna mention that because in one of my other resource guides, I saw found that people were doing different like their printable card games that are like educational, and like man, honestly, I'd like to do that right now. Like honestly, that seems fun just right now. Like when you look at some of this stuff, you're like, wow, I actually kind of want to do this myself. But it is a very affordable way to add some fun into the homeschool. It's kind of adding the game schooling element, which I think is can keep it really fun and engaging. which is actually something we cover a lot on the blog.
Yeah, I agree. So I saw a hack that somebody did. You know how on almost all worksheets you have to write down the date?
Yeah.
Well, they got a date stamper like you get at the library
Mm-hmm.
so that you could actually go through and stamp all the worksheets you did that day,
Wow, that's
right?
really smart. That's really smart. That's gonna save you
And
so
so
much
it
time.
helps, it saves time, and so it's official, and they're able to actually keep everything organized. Speaking of keeping things organized, a filing cabinet, if you have a space for a filing cabinet, you need to get one. If you don't have a space for a filing cabinet, you need to get an online app that is able to scan all of the worksheets that your kids are doing so that you have records of all of this. Some states don't require you to have records, some do, so you would have to look up the requirements for your state. But it can be really beneficial to be able to have all those records of the different learning that was done that day.
Another option you could do if you don't have the space for like a filing cabinet, I often will see like at stores and whatnot, there'll be plastic drawers that actually would fit files pretty well. So if you need something a bit more like lightweight and like that, that also could be an option that works for you as well.
So, what about organizing workbooks and educational books? We had a rolling cart that we had right by the door where we had all of our library books. Those library books stayed by the door, and that way they did not get lost. And so, having a rolling cart can really be a huge benefit because you can take it around the house with you, but all the stuff stays on the cart when it's done. When it's done, it gets pushed right back, and so it makes it a lot easier to be able to have that. Because I found that homeschoolers tend to migrate around the house as they're learning. So whether they're learning in their own room, in the living room, in the dining room, in the kitchen, being able to move the workbooks with you is really beneficial.
Yep, that is, I wholeheartedly agree with that. It's definitely very helpful because you don't want to be getting those things lost. Because that could be a stress. And I mean, like, you're already working hard enough. Anything that could help you de-stress, I think is pretty worth it.
And you need the school supplies: glue,
Oh yeah.
tape, scissors, pencils. Um, this means you're going to have a lot of little things like erasers to keep track of. So get pencil cases for each kid. And that's where all of their school supplies go. And if you can't fit the school supplies in there, then you got to they only need like 2 pencils at any given time. uh, and so one of the things that I saw people do is give each kid a clipboard. And if you can find the clipboards that actually have storage space in them, then you can kind of have a pencil case and a clipboard all in one. So you can be able to put their worksheets for the day on that clipboard, and then they can go through those, and then they have all the school supplies they need right in that clipboard. So I think that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I do think that is pretty awesome. I personally recommend getting plastic. Like, I really like plastic pencil, like holders or pencil cases because I mean, they can get messy. So like when you're doing fabric ones, I mean, fabric ones actually do work too, but like I always preferred as a kid, especially since we'd put the crayons in there too. So I like it made me feel like I was like all official. Like I had a little container for all my stuff.
So I would love to hear in the comments what your must-have homeschooling tools are, and see if you agree with any of the different items that we mentioned. I would say some of the optional things that a lot of people think that they have to have are like a microscope or a telescope or binoculars. Those things are all optional, super fun, but they are optional. So don't feel stressed if you don't have the budget to be able to get these things yet. These are ideas for you to be able to make your homeschool easier and for you to be able to save money.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also for some of those items, so like the ones that are kind of more the optional ones, something that my mom always did, she would look at thrift stores and like if there's like if it's on sale on Craigslist or for example nowadays you can do Facebook Marketplace and there's various other places too. But those are great places to look for some of that stuff because you'd be surprised like if you go to the thrift store what you can find that is really good for homeschooling. Like I'll see binoculars, even telescopes and maybe some of these things need a bit of repairs, but hey, that could also be another project. So it there can be some added value to that. So
I agree. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining us, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
Bye.